Toronto City Councilors are discussing the vacant home tax program that turned into just a fiasco. Right now, we are looking at Brad Bradford speak. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling on Mayor Olivia Chow to scrap the vacant home tax. So right now, we're joined live with Jay Goldberg, Ontario and Interim Atlantic Director, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. So, okay, Jay, aside from this, debacle, what are your thoughts on this tax?
Well, ultimately, we don't think that this is the right approach when it comes to trying to have more housing supply in the city of Toronto. So, first of all, we know that 167,000 or so people received notice that their properties were declared vacant simply because they forgot to fill out a form. And the city has already had to refund over 108,000 of those to individuals. And so this is actually bogging up the time of people who work for the city. This is costing a lot of money in terms of manpower. And so, when you look at the revenue they're getting from the tax and you compare that to all of this angst that's being caused, it's certainly not nearly worth it on those grounds alone. But I would say that we need to look at what we're getting out of this and what we're not getting out of this. So last year, only about 4,000 homes in the city of Toronto were declared vacant. That's not actually bringing in the city a lot of money. And it also shows you that when you're charging 167,000 people the next year, just how dramatically off those numbers and those charges were. So we've consistently said that the best way to promote homes in the city of Toronto and elsewhere is to stimulate supply, and that means getting developer fees lowered. That means encouraging supply whenever possible. So fourplexes throughout the city. The province is now finally rewarding cities with additional dollars when they do meet provincial housing targets. We need to be selling off some municipal and government land to try to make sure that we can construct more homes on unused lands. These are the things that we should be doing instead of turning to a tax that, quite frankly, a lot of people that have a vacant home but are doing so because they're doing renovations or something like that, they're going to have to pay regardless. There's not that many people sitting in the city of Toronto that have that own multiple vacant homes that are willing to pay property tax on those homes and not live in them. So it's really not a very good approach to housing policy or taxation policy.
Jay, what does it say to you that you have two councillors echoing your calls for this to just be scrapped?
Well, I think these councillors know that it's more trouble than it's worth. I think they know that this was a bad tax from the start. It was only brought in a couple of years ago. This is a very new tax. The city never had to rely on this income 2 years ago or more. And so I think the councillors are recognizing that this is incredibly damaging. The other thing is, if you own a home in Toronto, the average home price is about $1 million. If your home happens to be vacant for 6 months of that year, you're getting a $10,000 bill because it's 1% of your property. That's going up to 3% for most homes next year. So you'd be looking at bills like $30,000 simply because some people perhaps choose to spend a portion of the year in other countries, at a vacation home, or they're away for a portion of the year. So this would essentially force people to have to sell their homes if they're not using them for at least 6 months of the year. There are some people who don't, but they're still paying taxes. They're still paying property taxes. And this really isn't going to strongly affect supply, as I said, because only 4,000 people paid these taxes last year. So instead of doing that, you focus on stimulating supply by building more homes, cutting red tape, and making sure that we're selling off federal, provincial, municipal lands that are not being used so that we can build more affordable homes on those lands.
Okay, Jay Goldberg, Ontario and Interim Atlantic Director, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thank you.
Thank you.